Hi, I'm Hannah Click. I'm just the host today, so I'll be helping with the Q&A. But I'm really excited about what Kamran and Abdi have to present. And that's all. So I would officially pass baton to Abdi.
Thanks, Hannah. Hi, everyone. I'm Abdi Saidabadi, Senior Product Marketing Manager at Microsoft. I'm focusing on our SASE solution, and I'm super excited to be here with you today. So we are going to explore how Microsoft Entra Private Access can help you move beyond legacy VPNs and embrace a modern identity-centric approach so you can secure access to all your applications and resources. We're also going to walk you through a few demo scenarios so you can see them in action. But before we dive into the products, let's take a quick look at a few steps back from how the challenges evolved in the market and how the traditional security controls or solutions lag or they are not sufficient to address today's challenges. So let's get started. So traditionally with VPNs or legacy firewalls, all traffic had to be routed or hairpinned back through the corporate network just to apply security controls or give users access to their private applications. It worked, but it wasn't exactly efficient. So this approach often led to inconsistent controls, siloed policies, and really impacting the operational costs, maybe increasing those. So all while delivering a poor user experience. So users were remote, users are everywhere, especially after pandemic. So that kind of impacted the moving the traffic to VPNs, especially after pandemic, impacting the user experiences and giving them that poor user experience at scale. So identity and network security teams have also often worked in silos, each using their own set of tools. And the separation of these led to inconsistent access policies across identity controls and network access controls. So leading to security gaps and a lot of challenges for different teams to work together. And the end result is to reducing the risk and protecting the organization. So based on the recent research we did, on average, organizations have 5 identity access solutions and 4 network access tools, typically from 3 different vendors. That's a lot of complexity to manage in the organization. So this kind of fragmentation really introducing the risk, the real risk that organizations are facing. In fact, 79% of organizations using 6 or more solutions reported a significant increase in breaches over the past year based on the research we did recently. So what should we do here? It's time really to rethink how we approach network access security. Well, how we do that? We need to bridge the gap between identity and network security together. We can really close critical gaps by doing that, improve security, increase efficiency, and give users a more seamless experience. So, how that really happens, let's look into that a little bit more deeper. So that's where Microsoft Entra Conditional Access comes in. It acts as a zero trust policy engine, securing access to your apps and resources, managed right from Entra Admin Center. It's built on core zero trust principles, which includes verify explicitly, enforce least privilege, and assume breach. So you're always one step ahead when it comes to protecting your environment. So now here is the exciting part. You can apply conditional access to any app or resource, even legacy applications, no matter where those are hosted, on-premises, data center, or in any cloud. This is made possible through Microsoft Security Service Edge solution, which is part of a broader Secure Access Service Edge, which is SASE strategy that we have, bringing modern cloud-delivered security to whether your users or apps are residing. Let me give you a quick overview of Microsoft SASE solution. It brings together the SASE ecosystem that we started building, we announced in November, and Security Service Edge capabilities to help you defend against modern threats with powerful cloud-delivered security. A lot of capabilities fits into this kind of portfolio of solutions. It includes key services like Zero Trust Network Access, which is or Microsoft Entra Private Access, Secure Web Gateway, which is Microsoft Entra Internet Access, and Cloud Access Security Broker, helping you protect your users, apps, and data wherever they are. Before I pass it to Cameron, I just want to touch on like key differentiations. One of the biggest things that sets our SASE solution apart is how we've brought identity and network access security together. So we have made Microsoft Entra tools like conditional access, identity protection, and identity governance work together seamlessly. And also a global proxy built on Microsoft WAN gives users a fast, reliable access, especially for Microsoft traffic, and it smartly routes traffic to the nearest points of presence wherever your users are and wherever your data is. And finally, it's designed to work alongside your other SSE solutions that you have maybe implemented, invested on, so you can get flexibility without sacrificing performance by deploying part of our SSE solution and get along the journey and matching to your journey wherever you are. So let's take a look at, a closer look at our Microsoft Entra Private Access. It is where the things get really interesting for us here. Microsoft Entra Private Access gives you a simple, modern way to replace your legacy VPN with a more secure identity-first approach to zero trust network access. It helps you secure and simplify access to any private resource on any port or protocol, whether it's hosted on premises, in your private data center, or across major public clouds. And now, with that, I want to hand over to Cameron, who, he's going to walk us through how private access works and share a few demo scenarios to bring this into life and see it in action. Cameron, past you.
All right. Thank you, Abdi. Hello, everyone. My name is Kamran, and I'm a Senior Product Manager at Microsoft Secure Access Services team. And today, I'll be taking you on a deep dive of Microsoft Entra Private Access offering. Now that we have already seen why we need to replace our legacy VPNs with a modern Zero Trust network access solution, let's see how Microsoft Entra Private Access can help you achieve that. Now, Microsoft Entra Private Access is an identity-centric Zero Trust network access solution that lets you configure unified identity and network access controls using conditional access and connect any end user, whether they are working from office or remotely, on any device to any application or resource, whether it's hosted on your on-premises network, in private servers, or in a multi-cloud hybrid environment. To understand this better, let's look at the high-level architecture. Now, on the left side, we have our SSE client, better known as the Global Secure Access Client, that allows you to control network traffic at the end user's devices, giving organizations the ability to route specific traffic through private access. Now, we have a client for all major device platforms, including Windows, macOS, iPhones, iPads, and Android devices as well. Now, the GSA client uses a lightweight layer 7 gRPC tunnel based on HTTP2. This allows us to snap granular network security and conditional access controls like device compliance and multi-factor authentication on every network flow going out of the device, enabling you to segment the access and not have a blanket control over your on-prem network. Now, multiple tunnels from our client to the service adds resiliency and redundancy to the connectivity, such that if one tunnel fails or if the edge instance is running hot, we can seamlessly fall back to the next closest edge instance without interrupting the end user experience. On the other end of the diagram, we have the private network connector, which we'll deep dive into just in a moment. So talking some of the key capabilities offered by private access, we have the quick access that provides fast and easy migration from legacy VPNs to an identity-centric ZTNA solution, and minimize the risk of implicit trust and lateral movement. You can easily configure broad IP range and fully qualified domain names with a wildcard FQDN to quickly migrate all of your private network onto quick access and start using all those identity-centric zero trust-based network controls. Now, through app discovery, you gain granular private app visibility that enables you to discover your on-premises applications and onboard them to Microsoft Entra ID, so you can define granular access policies for them. This will enable you to gain granular visibility across all private apps through automatic discovery, grouping of apps, and easy onboarding of all your private apps for that zero trust security posture. Now, enhanced identity-centric security controls provide unique controls by placing the identity at the center of your access policy. Conditional access policies allow you to set up modern authentication in front of all private apps and legacy protocols, such as Kerberos and NTLM, so you can easily control all your private apps. For example, you can easily enable MFA and device compliance check for users when they are trying to RDP it to your private applications, to your private servers. We recently announced the general availability of private DNS and public preview of multi-geo support, which we will deep dive in the next coming slides. With segmented access allows you to have access control specific to each application instead of granting users access to the entire network as traditional VPNs do. Now you can define granular segmented access policies for each application or to group of applications, making your onboarding journey very smooth. Now, broad application support within private access enables secure access to any application, including on-prem private apps using any port and protocol, including RDP, SSH, SMB, FTP, even your corporate printers or any private web and non-web app. We have support for all ports, all protocols, and all applications in private access. Now, our deep integration with continuous access evaluation will enable you to terminate ongoing sessions if anomalies or changes in user or device security posture is detected. For example, if a user connects from one part of the world and then immediately connects from another part of the world, what we call as impossible travel, we can identify this as an anomaly and enforce a reauth or a step above for the user to reconfirm or revalidate their identity. Now, shifting gears, let's actually see some of the capabilities we have talked about in action. In the first demo, we will see how you can bring conditional access to require phishing-resistant MFA to grant access over a legacy protocol such as SSH. Now, in this demo, we have set up a private access app for SSH to a Linux server. We have a pre-configured conditional access policy for this app. And let's click on the conditional access policy to see what else has been configured there. On the target resource, we will see that the SSH app is already pre-selected. We have targeted the CA policy to specific users as well. And under access controls for grant condition, we can click on that to understand what the requirements for that for getting access to the SSH would require. And here we have set up a requirement for phishing-resistant MFA as the required authentication strength. Now we have set the CA policy to be enabled so that it's enforced whenever a user tries to access that server. And when I try to access my Linux server using secure shell, and before the connection gets established, the GSA client will intercept the traffic and prompt me to sign in. Now, when I click on sign in, I will be challenged to complete multi-factor authentication with phishing-resistant MFA as was configured. So over here, I can use my Windows Hello for Business PIN or Face ID to get access to the SSH server. Now, once MFA is successfully done, you will notice that I'm now signed into the Linux server using SSH. How cool was that? Now let's take a look at some of the new features we have released for private access. We recently announced the general availability of private DNS. With Edge accelerated private DNS support, you can now add domain suffixes to your quick access policy to access IP-based applications across private apps using FQDN or short names. Now it is super easy to configure private DNS with private access. All you need to do is click a simple checkbox to enable it and provide a list of domain suffixes. Now, private access will seamlessly use your existing on-prem DNS infrastructure, leveraging the private network connector deployed in your on-prem network, and use a zero trust based approach to resolve your DNS requests. Now, we also cache the DNS responses in our service for a much faster resolution to your DNS requests. We also recently announced the public preview release of multi-geo support for private access just a few weeks back. For multinational organizations with users and applications deployed across the globe, this provides optimal traffic routing to SSE backend closer to where your users and applications are. Up until some time back, private access flow lacked the multi-geo capability, which meant that any routing for private access was determined by the tenant's default geography. For instance, if the tenant's default region was North America, all connector groups would connect to the Entra backend service in North America, even if some applications connector groups were deployed in other regions. For example, let's say a user was in Europe trying to access an application that was also in Europe. Their traffic would have to take a round trip to the SSE backend in North America because the tenant's default location was North America, as shown in the purple dotted line. Now, with multi-geo support, customers can assign connector groups to their preferred regions instead of relying solely on the tenant's geolocation. Each connector group will connect to the SSE backend in the selected area, enhancing overall efficiency. Now, this gives customers the flexibility to direct connections to the SSE backend, which is closest to their applications and users. Now, as you start looking into deploying your connectors closer to where your users and applications are, we are also very excited to share that in addition to the Microsoft Entra Admin Center, the private network connector is now available across all major cloud marketplaces, including Azure, AWS, and GCP, allowing users to easily deploy a private network virtual machine with a pre-installed private access connector. Now, this takes care of setting up a Windows Server VM in your chosen virtual network with all the prerequisites in place, downloading the agent, installing it, and even registering it in your tenant, all in a matter of few clicks from the marketplace portal without requiring the user to ever sign into the VM itself. Just touching a bit upon the private network connector, it's a required software component to enable Entra Private Access. It sits alongside your private applications in customer network and designed to provide secure and convenient access to them from any device and location. It acts as a bridge between our SSE Edge and your on-prem application private servers, facilitating the authentication, authorization, and encryption of traffic. Now, before we get into more demos, let's see how you can accelerate your ZTNA journey with private access. For enabling customers coming from the VPN world to quickly get started with a ZTNA solution, we have built Quick Access, using which you can get started with a very simple configuration. An IP address range is all we need to get you started. You can expand it over time based on your deployment needs, but this lets you easily bring identity-centric controls through conditional access on your defined range. We then enable you to discover applications on your defined quick access range. And as you discover these segments, we recommend onboarding them into Entra as enterprise apps so that you can segment the access of your entire on-prem network and remove excessive blanket access. Now, once you segment access, you can then group these apps into buckets of high, medium, or low risk business impact applications. This then enables you to snap your conditional access policies to groups of apps as opposed to individual apps, significantly fast tracking your onboarding journey to a zero trust network posture. Now, talking about the user experience while you're making your organizations more secure, I'm sure you all agree that there should never be a trade-off between ease of use and security. Security can work much better when we make it easy for people to do the right thing. Now, with Entra Private Access, we enable you to configure all your network routes, identity controls, and conditional access policies in a single unified plane of control that is our Entra Admin Center. Now, let's see how you can configure quick access with ease. In our Entra Admin Center, you can navigate down to the Global Secure Access section and head over under Applications to Quick Access. Now, as the quick access configuration loads, you can configure your app segments, which could be FQDNs, wildcard FQDNs, individual IPs or IP ranges, or even IP CIDR ranges. And you can assign different set of ports and protocols to it. And that's how you would configure your entire app segments for quick access. And under conditional access, you can then start configuring the conditions that are required to be satisfied for anybody to get access to those endpoints. Under user section, you can assign it to specific users or all users in your tenant. The target resource would be pre-populated with your quick access application. And under conditions and access controls, you can then specify further conditions. Over here, we have set up to require multi-factor authentication, which must be completed in order to grant access to the quick access app segments that have been defined. Now, you can set that policy to be read-only or turn it on to start enforcing it for your end users. And that's it. With just a few clicks, you have now secured your private resources. Now let's see the quick act configuration we just did, how significantly it improves the security posture of access to your on-prem resources. Now in this demo, we'll try to RDP to an on-prem server, but let's first confirm there's no VPN connected. Now let's try to see whether we have network level access to the RDP on-prem server. Now, as expected, the ping fails because I do not have line of sight to my on-prem server. Now let's bring up the remote desktop native client and try to RDP to the on-prem server. You'll notice the moment I connect, the agent intercepts the traffic and enforces conditional access policy using MFA, which validates both the device identity as well as the user identity, getting the access token from Microsoft Entra ID and validating it with the service. Once everything checks out fine, private access enables me to connect to the right RTP server, as you can see. Now moving on to the next demo.
This time, we will demo the end user experience on an iPad and use Entra Privileged Identity Management to get JIT access, a key benefit of deep integrations of our SASE capabilities with our identity platform. So here you see that we have the remote desktop client app, which we are going to use to access the private server with IP address 10.0.0.6. Now, as soon as I try to connect, the Defender app prompts me to authenticate. Now for iOS, the GSA client is integrated with the Defender app itself. Now, as I complete my sign-in, I'm prompted with the challenge and use the Authenticator app to complete the app. Now, since I'm accessing a highly privileged resource, I'm rightfully denied access because I do not have the required permission to that private resource just yet. Now, let's proceed to elevate my identity for privileged access. For this, I will go to Entra Identity Management portal and look for my eligible group memberships. When I find the right group, I'm going to try to activate that membership. Now to activate, I will provide a duration and a reason for elevation. Now this user role elevation can also be done as an approval workflow, and my access is only valid for the specific duration after which I will lose access. Now once done, I will click on Activate and wait for the process to complete. Elevation to this privileged group membership will enable my just-in-time access to connect to the remote desktop resource. As my identity has now completed the elevation, let's quickly confirm that I have the right permission. It appears my membership is now active. And now I'll proceed to retry the remote desktop again. When I try to connect, the Defender app will again prompt me to authenticate. And I'll have to complete my sign-in again, and I'll be prompted for the MFA challenge, which I'll complete using the Authenticator app. Now this time, you'll notice that after MFA is complete, I'm now able to access the RDP resource. Now my access has been successful, and now I'm successfully able to log into the privileged server. Now I was able to do all this after having to elevate my membership, which is again active for a certain duration, and then will get revoked.
Now for our final demo, we'll see how you can leverage Entra Private Access to provide secure remote access to your Azure managed services and protect your sensitive cloud resources. For this, we have provisioned an Azure storage account in the public cloud. Now, since it contains sensitive files, I have blocked a public access and instead enabled a private endpoint on a virtual private network. So if I try to access the storage from public internet, I will get blocked. But if I try to access it from within the VNet, let's say using a VM inside the VNet, I will be able to access. However, I'm still not able to bring all the rich identity and network access security controls that conditional access has to offer to this endpoint using just private link. Now for that, I can deploy a connector on the private network and onboard the private link of the storage account as a private access application as an enterprise app. Now then I can configure conditional access policies, setting the target resource to that enterprise app and be able to exercise all the security conditional access controls as we had seen before. So while ensuring there is no public access to my storage, using Entra Private Access, I can exercise rich identity and network access controls to my sensitive Azure resources as well. Now let's see it in action. With the device having the GSA client enabled and private access set up, I'm going to use the Azure Storage Explorer to connect to my storage account using a connection string. I'll paste the connection string to create the connection. Now, as I try to connect, the GSA client will intercept the traffic and enforce the conditional access policy. Now I will log in using my cloud identity and then complete MFA. Once I'm successfully signed in, I will see that I do have access to all my blob containers within the storage account. I can see the files contained within, and I can even open and have full read and edit access on them via Entra Private Access. All right, so with that, I'll pass it on to Abdi to discuss more about Microsoft Entra Suite capabilities.
Thanks, Cameron. So the Entra Suite includes 5 deeply integrated products to give you a complete solution for zero trust user access. Microsoft Entra Private Access, which we just covered, helps you replace legacy VPNs and extends conditional access to all private resources. Microsoft Entra Internet Access is our identity-centric secure web gateway to protect against threats of the open internet. And Microsoft Entra ID Governance ensures least privilege access for any user. And Microsoft ID Protection prevents identity compromise with real-time risk assessment for every sign-in for every user powered by cloud-scale machine learning. And finally, Microsoft Entra Verified ID makes it possible to verify people's identities in real time in a privacy-respecting way. Because these products work as one integrated solution, Microsoft Entra Suite makes it so easy to protect your employees' identities and secure their access to any app or resource. That's regardless of where the people choose to work from, the office, the home, or on the go. So while Entra Suite has many benefits, I really want to cover or highlight the top 4 key benefits here. It unifies the access policy engine across identities, endpoints, and networks. It enforces least privilege access for all users to any app or resource, including AI models. It simplifies the user experience for accessing any resource from anywhere. And also it modernizes your security, retiring legacy tools like traditional firewalls or VPN, as we just covered earlier. So if you want to learn more, please check these resources. And if you're really ready to get started and dive in, you can get started today with a free trial of the Microsoft Entra Suite. The links are on the slide. You can just go to these AKA links and get started. So with that, I really want to thank you so much for your time today. And now I want to get back to you, Hannah, to see how we can answer your questions, if there are any questions out there. Back to you, Hannah.
Awesome. Thank you, Abdi, and thank you, Cameron, for presenting today. And yes, we actually have a few questions I think you guys would be able to answer. So first, let's see here. Is Microsoft Entra Private Access available globally?
I can answer that. the answer is yes. The product is generally available. We support it globally, except China and Russia at this time, but those are going to come later as well. But it is available globally, and we make it possible for you to access it. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Let's see here. Our next question. Oh, this is good. Is private access replacing Entra ID app proxy? Maybe Kamran, you can answer this, or Abdi?
Sure, yeah, I can take that. So yeah, app proxy has been there for a very long time, right? And is being used by millions of users across the world. Private access actually builds upon much of the app proxy capabilities, but also expands it further to a complete SASE ZTNA solution and offering support for all sorts of ports and protocol, not just web applications, but all non-web applications as well, and brings in additional visibility and network security controls to that. So while app proxy is not going anywhere, we are building on top of that to make private access as our sole solution for all ZTNA needs.
Okay. Thank you. And then let's see, we have a few more. Does private access support on-premise MFA when accessing private apps and resources?
All right, I can take that too. So private access is a very valuable solution especially for your on-prem resources, right? And we do offer the capability to enforce MFA on all private apps when accessed through private access. So protocols like NTLM, Kerberos, SMB file shares that have been there for decades, these legacy systems are still essential for many organizations. And with private access, you can actually bring modern on-prem MFA in front of these protocols and applications without having to modify them by just onboarding them as private access applications in enterprise apps. Now, end users, whether on-prem or remote, can securely access all apps, and private access would help enforce MFA, perform SSO for the user, and bring in all the rich network controls that conditional access brings, such as device compliance, user risk, location verification, etc.
Great. Thank you for that answer. And then let's see, we have one more right now. How does single sign-on work with private access in place?
I can take that. I think private access integrates with the Microsoft Entra ID, which then you can enable SSO across, any type of private applications, modern applications, legacy applications, and even over your private network. So that goes back to the earlier, conversations we had, that all these strengths of conditional access controls and identity centric controls can brought into in front of any private application or resource you have in your environment, no matter where they are, like on premises, data center, or any cloud. So yes, the answer is absolutely, you can bring SSO across private applications.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Abdi. One more came in while you were talking. Which OS platforms do you support now?
Yeah, I can take that too. I think we support major OS platforms: Windows, Mac OS, Android, and we have Linux on our roadmap coming later as well. So our intention is to support all type of environments, from legacy to modern, any type of OS platforms and clients that we need to support. So we have support for major operating systems.
Great. So all platforms. Love that. Right. That was all the questions that were posted today. Thank you both for coming on to the 425 show and presenting a very great presentation. And hopefully you come on again. Thank you everyone for attending, and I hope everyone has a great rest of their day, evening, morning, wherever they may be. Bye everyone.